information and analysis to help you zero in on the best places to live. The ideal location for cabins and vacation homes, as well as safe and unsafe areas. Get Prudent Places USA for only $29 plus shipping by calling New Millennium at 888-803-4438. That's 888-803-4438 to order on the web or at murkywater.com.
And now back to Sherry.
And listener call-in line, folks, 260-356-2611. We've covered quite a bit on the show tonight, talking about churches from chemtrails with Terry Chavo, and see what this half hour brings up. You know, I started talking about the coming epidemic that the government's getting ready to unleash on the public. That's the avian flu. And from what I've heard is they dug up the bodies of people who died of the Spanish flu and took their DNA to be able to create this avian flu. And this thing, they're planning on millions of deaths, anywhere from 16 to 30 million people that this coming plague could kill. And in the Midwest part of the United States, they've stocked some 7 million body bags. And this just being in the Midwest. So they're planning for this. And people want to say our government would never plan it. Well, how would they know to start stacking up body bags in certain areas of the United States? And then they came out with a shrink wrap thing to be able to contain large amounts of bodies at one time, and it was easier for them to shrink wrap bodies, easier to transport them. Sounds a little too convenient to me, folks. And it's also a way of protecting themselves from a chem bio attack, and you know, shrink wrapping bodies themselves to contain the flu virus. And I talked to Bill Deagle, and he thinks that this coming plague will be what brings in the New World Order. So, you know, this thing's coming, and there's no cure for it, and they're already planning on telling people that come down with the symptoms of this flu virus to die at home, to not even go to the hospitals, because the hospitals are going to be so full of people. And so they're planning this, and it's coming, and people don't think our government would plan to hurt its own people. Well, they took out 30, 40,000. You know the numbers were lied about when they blew up the World Trade Center. You know, what they say, 4,000 or 5,000 were dead. Give me a break. And, you know, and they say that the planes themselves caused these buildings to fall. You know, go to wingtv.net and watch the series 911 on Trial. You can watch it right online. Just click on the link, and if you've got one of those real players, it'll play the video. They've got excellent information over there. Another good website, letsroll911.org, a study about the government's involvement with WTC. They were totally behind it. Totally behind it. And, you know, I don't think it was Theodore Roosevelt who said that if anything happens in politics, you can bet the government's behind it. Because nothing happens by chance, folks. These little Arabs, cave dwellers, that didn't come over to America and learn how to fly airplanes and then fly them into the WTC and then the Pentagon. I mean, give me a break. It didn't happen. In fact, the FBI had to take that list off of the 20 Arabs because they're still alive and they're threatening to sue for defaming their names. You know, the FBI had him as the 20 most wanted terrorists in the world because they were involved with the death of WTC, and they weren't even in this country. One of them was a doctor in France. So everything's a setup. Don't believe what the government tells you. It's usually propaganda, and almost always lies mixed in with truth, and very little truth somewhere. They mangle that to death. So if you want real news, hit the internet, not the propaganda machines of our media. They're controlled. They're bought out. We used to sit back years ago and just shake our heads at the Russians because we used to laugh about the Russians never getting the news because their media was so controlled. Well, look at ours now, folks. They get more real news over there than we do. You know, if you want to know what's going on here, go online and read the websites of Pravda and India Daily and the BBC, and you'll get the news. You're not going to get it here. Americans don't get the news. It's all controlled, it's bought out. It's mostly fiction now. And whenever they need a diversion away from the real truth, then they just come up with something silly, or they talk about sports for a while. And so become watchdogs. Become your own government watchdogs and search for the truth in all things that they're doing, and stay on top of why they meet at midnight sessions on Fridays and Sundays away from the public's eye, so they can pass these satanic dictatorship bills that they can pull out during the tribulation period and throw on the people. And we know, martial law is coming. They're planning on martial law. I said at the beginning of this show that Canadian troops have been seen coming into Michigan, and Canada's not planning on, they're not coming over here to fight. We've been neighbors with the Canadians for years. But what they're doing is using their troops, using foreign troops for martial law here, because they know our soldiers won't fight against fellow Americans. And so they bring in foreign troops to control the people and imprison them. And the foreign troops are the ones they're going to be using when they have martial law here. Another thing that could bring in martial law, besides this huge avian plague that's coming that could potentially wipe out millions unless it's stopped. We know 20 scientists were killed in the last 2 years. And these scientists were all used to develop plagues, massive plagues to kill mankind. They developed these plagues, they developed the antidotes to them, and then they were killed so that nobody else could get the antidotes. The government has the antidotes, and they're not going to, give it to the people. They're going to let these plagues kill millions, and they use the antidotes for themselves and their families. So they're not affected by it. The only interest they have is death. Death, death, death. That's Satan's power. He wants death of America, the destruction of America, the New World Order. America is Satan's seat. A lot of you will say, well, that's the Vatican. Well, that's true. But his bases, look at how much dominance the aliens have here underneath America on our soil. 132 bases in America. A lot of them joint alien and human bases, a lot of them just military, and then, of course, a lot just alien. And so it's virtually, our hollow earth under America is almost a mimic of the surface earth. I have heard that aliens, when they build bases, they build them right underneath cities, so that if our government tries to come after them, they'd have to bomb their own city first just to get to them underneath it. And so that's, they're using normal cities themselves as shields to protect themselves from the government. And, it's kind of, 1 minute the government's signing treaties with them, and the next minute they're trying to blow them up. I mean, whatever. America's definitely a dominant stronghold of Satan in these last days, with all the bases that they have here. With the treaties they have signed with our government. I've gone over this a couple weeks ago. I can hit my archives. It's in the days of Noah. You can listen to part 1 and 2 and talk about this stuff. And I've got these articles on my website